Now, the Shadow Assistant Treasurer, Andrew Leigh. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Kieran.
And in Melbourne, we've got the Assistant Minister for Social Services, Senator Mitch Fifield. Mitch Fifield, first to you on this work for the dole story. Is it fair to say, as I said there just a moment ago to Richo, that this is, in general terms, a return to the Howard-era approach?
Well, the coalition since the Howard government has been committed to the concept of work for the dole, but more broadly committed to the concept of reciprocal obligation. And that is, if the community is supporting you in a time of need, it's not unreasonable to expect that you put something back into the community. So that's been a long-standing principle of the coalition. And we've made no secret of the fact that if we were successful in gaining government, that we would want to revitalise the Work for the Dole program. Now, how we give expression to that, the details are yet to come, but will be announced in due course. But look, we want to make people have a sense of value. The best way to do that is for them to have a job. If, for whatever reason, they don't have a job at a point in time, we want them to be engaged in an activity that has some meaning and that they feel that they're making a contribution to the community.
I don't think you're going to announce the full policy this morning, but in terms of the reports that are around this morning in the News Corp papers, that local government, not-for-profit groups, that they are being called upon to recruit some of the 800,000 plus unemployed, that all makes common sense given your broader point this morning. Is that generally right? Are those details that are out there today correct?
Well, any Work for the Dole program, any program of reciprocal obligation is obviously a partnership between government, the individuals taking part in that program, and community organisations and businesses. So obviously, in any scheme, you need to partner with other organisations. But as I say, the details of how we give expression to the program, there's something to come.
All right, Andrew Leigh, your response to the notion of reciprocal obligation, is that fair? If people aren't receiving welfare, that they should chip in a bit as well?
Kieran, I've certainly got no issue with reciprocity. The challenge with Work for the Dole is what the evidence says. I'm basically an evidence guy. If the evidence points towards a policy, I'll go for it. In the case of Work for the Dole, we have one high-quality evaluation done by Jeff Borland of Melbourne University for the Howard government, and that found that Work for the Dole increased joblessness because it ended up diverting people from job search activities into Work for the Dole activities. So if the coalition pursues Work for the Dole, they'll be pursuing a policy which, on the evidence, will increase the jobless rate. Now, when people talk about bad policies, they're typically talking about policies that don't have the desired effect. But this is worse than that. This is a policy that would actually make the problem worse. Only a government that was really willfully willing to ignore the evidence in favour of pure ideology would pursue Work for the Dole. But this is a government whose every policy seems to be jeopardising jobs at a very fragile stage in the labour market. And as Bill Shorten has pointed out, we've seen a worsening of the employment situation since the Abbott government came to office. We're seeing public service jobs going across the board.
But I think a lot of people, a lot of our viewers watching this morning would like the idea of some of what we're hearing today, like if someone's offered a job, that they can't simply refuse it because they don't necessarily want it or it's not convenient. If they're unemployed and on welfare, should they not then be required to take that job?
You want to get the policy settings absolutely right, and jobs are a hallmark of Labor's time in government, saving those 200,000 jobs in the global financial crisis.
If someone, but to the point of the question, if someone has a job offer and doesn't accept it, stays on welfare, why not use a bit of the stick? The government's talking about a carrot and stick, in giving people bonuses if they take a job, but also a stick if they don't. That's fair enough, isn't it?
Well, you do have bonuses if people find jobs in the form of the working credit, which kicks in for people who've been unemployed for a long period. And in the case of particular jobs, you want to make sure that it's a good match, that you're not simply forcing someone into a job that they're going to leave weeks later. That doesn't benefit the person or the employer.
Senator,
Work for the Dole's different though. Work for the Dole is compelling people into other jobs, which Jeff Borland has clearly showed drives up the jobless rate.
Senator Fifield, what do you say to this suggestion from Andrew Lee this morning, quoting that report out of Melbourne University, that the whole thing could be counterproductive if people are required to do work for the Dole projects and spend less time looking for a job?
Well, we put a policy forward at the election. We were elected on that policy, and it's our intention to implement it. But I have every confidence that work for the Dole, giving people that experience, giving them that meaning and purpose in contributing to the community at a time when they're receiving a payment from the community is an unqualifiedly good thing.
Along with a bit of tough love as well, if they don't take a job, that they should lose welfare?
Well, look, we're also doing many things to encourage people into the workforce. From the 1st of July this year, we're going to have a job commitment bonus. So for long-term unemployed people between the ages of 18 and 30, if they commit to a job for 12 months, they'll get a payment. If they stay in work for 2 years, they'll get a larger payment. We've also have a mature age employer encouragement scheme for those employers who take on people who've been on a payment who are a little older. That'll be an incentive for them. We're also introducing a relocation payment for people who need to go from the city to the country or from the country to the city for work. So we've got a range of things that we're doing to encourage and support people into work, but we want to make sure that people have that positive and good experience of work that everyone wants.
All right, we're going to take a quick break on AM Agenda. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
All day at the shop, then a night of BAS, wages, creditors, and reconciling the bank accounts. I can't remember the last time I made it home in time for dinner with the kids.
Call First Class Accounts now. Our professional national network of qualified bookkeepers can take the stress away by expertly managing your bookkeeping in as little as a couple of hours a week. And the first consultation is completely free.
So give us your books and we'll give you back your life.
Call First Class Accounts now on 1300 76 3306.
Which direct life insurer has won awards for outstanding value 5 years in a row? Allianz, that's right. Allianz Life cover costs up to 25% less than other direct life insurers. Let's say you're 39. Don't smoke, $500,000 cover. Enough to pay off the mortgage? Less than $9 a week. Apply by phone or online without a medical. Easy. Protect your family. Get a quote today and see how much you can save. You'll be okay with Allianz.
Kickstart your year with The Australian. The journalists and global resources to keep you ahead of the ups, downs, ins, outs, movers, shakers, and the fakers of business. Know business so you can be the business. The Australian. Pick it up today.
Count the number of batteries you rely on every day. Now multiply it by 7.6 million households. As the demand for battery power increases, plan for a positive future today with your own Battery World franchise.
Out here, fed by rain, nurtured by earth, kissed by the Australian sun, getting taller every day and hungrier by the minute. Out here, in the great outdoors, this is where we grow.
When you're trying to get pregnant, by the time you find out you are, a little person is already coming to life. That's why you should start taking Elevit with iodine as soon as you start trying for a baby. It contains folic acid, clinically proven to reduce the risk of neural tube defects. It has more folic acid, iron and iodine in combination than any other pregnancy multivitamin. So while you may not know you're pregnant, if you're taking Elevit with iodine, you do know you're helping give your baby essential nutrients for healthy development.
You get your whole life sorted on that thing, don't you?
Pretty much.
Well, not your whole life. Your finances are sorted into files. 2 files. And a box under the bed. I'm thinking you might need some help. Let me show you something.
You can see ANZ Smart Choice Super next to your other ANZ accounts. With Australia's lowest retail super fees, you could have more for your future.
Thanks for the tip. Of course, you can always keep that under the bed.
This is AIM Agenda. Thanks for your company this public holiday morning with me, Andrew Leigh and Senator Mitch Fifield. Senator Fifield, something that you've got responsibility for is the National Disability Insurance Scheme. I want to turn our attention to that now. A couple of weeks ago, Tony Shepherd, the head of the government's Commission of Audit, told the Senate committee that will refuse to rule out the prospect of a sell-off of the National Disability Insurance Agency, which is set to oversee the rollout of the NDIS, a privatisation of sorts. What do you say in response to some of those reports and comments in reaction to it at the time?
Oh, look, Kieran, I think the scare campaign that Labor is running in relation to the government and the NDIS is deeply disappointing. I would have hoped that this is something that could have been elevated beyond partisanship. But just in relation to the specific issue of privatisation, which Labor have been running around talking about, it really is a moot point. The whole essence of the NDIS, the whole design of the NDIS, isn't for government to deliver the services to people with disability. It's for not-for-profit organisations and for private providers to do so. So an individual is assessed, they get an entitlement commensurate to their need, and the individual takes that entitlement to the service provider of their choice. So the NDIS is all about contestability, it's all about the individual being in control. It's never been
talking about the agency though? They're talking about the agency that runs it and oversees the whole thing, that there was that prospect wasn't ruled out by the Commission of Audit.
Well, Kieran, I think Labor are trying to set up a straw man that somehow government is the deliverer of disability services through the NDIS. Government isn't the deliverer of disability services through the NDIS. It's not-for-profit organisations, and it'll be private providers as well. And look, I'm actually very heartened by the Commission of Audit. I'm not worried by their work. One of the principles under which the Commission of Audit is operating is that government should do those things that only government can do and no more. Now, the Commission of Audit, I've got no doubt, will find that the National Disability Insurance Scheme is core government business. And look, we're getting on with the job of implementing it, and I just wish the Australian Labor Party could elevate this beyond partisanship.
Andrew?
Kieran, I share Mitch's passion for making a difference to the lives of people with disabilities. But when you've got a Commission of Audit which is so dominated by big business, which lacks representatives from the social sector, the community sector, the disability sector, then you're going to find extreme proposals like this, the notion of selling off the National Disability Insurance Agency.
It's not a proposal. It was just simply a question put that wasn't rejected. It's not a proposal.
Well, it has been proposed by various people in the community, and the Commission has signalled that it's something they're looking at. Now,
no, they just refuse to rule it out. They're not saying they're looking at it. They just refuse to rule it out. It's a difference.
Well, if they don't think that the agency should be privatised, they could very easily have said so. But that prospect is on the table, and frankly, that would mean that we'd be selling off the agency that runs disability care just while this initial work is being done. I mean, the government shouldn't be running around seeing who it can sell the Disability Insurance Agency to. It should be trying to get the rollout absolutely right.
Shouldn't Labor be trying to elevate it above politics, as Senator Fifield says?
Kieran, I think one of the great truisms of these kinds of shows is any time you see someone saying let's elevate it above politics, it essentially means they don't want to answer the question. If the coalition wants to categorically rule out selling the agency, I'd be greatly heartened by that, and Senator Fifield has an opportunity to do that on your program today, but didn't do it.
Senator Fifield, any response to that, just finally?
Well, look, there is nothing to sell. Let me repeat, there is nothing to sell. Labor don't know the design of the scheme that they themselves legislated. It is not government that is delivering services to people with disability through the NDIS. It's private providers and it's not-for-profits. The role of government is to facilitate. The job of providers is to give those direct services to the people who need them, and that's what's going to happen.
Let's move on. I want to talk about Adam Goodes, Australian of the Year. Your thoughts on that, Senator Fifield?
Look, I think he's a terrific choice. He is a great role model for young Australians. He is a very articulate individual. He's got a lot of views on a range of issues, and I think it's great that we have an Australian of the Year who's going to be able to contribute to a range of debates.
And this is good in the lead up to the constitutional recognition attempts. The government, Andrew Leigh says, or the Prime Minister says, he wants a draft amendment to the constitution by September of this year. This is something that you would hope would be above politics.
Certainly it's had bipartisan support. I think that's great, and indeed I saw Adam Goodes speaking about this. I think Australia's treatment of Indigenous Australians needs to be tackled on a whole range of fronts. So we need to make sure that we've got support for the government Indigenous bodies, that we have constitutional recognition, but as Adam Goodes has shown us, that in our daily lives all of us have moments, choices in which we can speak out or stay silent. And his example of dealing with the Spectator who called him used a racist slur against him, I think is just a terrific example to Australians, young and old, whether in the school or the workplace, just not to stay silent on those racist quips. Building bridges and reconciliation isn't just a job for government; it's a job for all of us.
Mitch Fifield, finally on this matter, the Prime Minister wants constitutional recognition of Indigenous people as Australia's first people. He wants it to be a unifying moment. How hopeful and confident are you that that can be the case?
Well, I think Australians have open hearts and open minds, and the Prime Minister has really led on that journey. It's important that there is a draft form of words put to the Australian people for discussion, which will happen by September, and we should let people have their say. If this is to go forward, it's important that all Australians have a sense of ownership, and look, I think that can happen.
Finally, Minister, I want to ask you about Peter Cosgrove, likely to be announced Governor-General this week. I'm told an announcement is imminent. That would be a traditional appointment. The military has a long history of serving in that role as well, doesn't it?
Well, we've been very lucky in Australia with the people who've served in the office of Governor-General. It's important that the holder is someone who is beyond reproach and above politics. There are many Australians who could well serve in that position after Quentin Bryce. But I don't think, as a minister, I should be speculating in any way as to who the Prime Minister may recommend to Her Majesty. We'll all just have to wait.
Wait and see. Good career move, I think, there, Mitch Fifield. Andrew Leigh, your thoughts?
A very worthy Australian, Kieran, and somebody who's extraordinarily articulate on a national character. When I wrote my last book about inequality in Australia, I talked about Peter Cosgrove's view on our egalitarian military, about how our foot patrols really get amongst people and hear from common people, not just from elders, as some other militaries do. He talked about us as being out in the streets rather than hiding behind sandbags. So he's got some passionate views. He's a worthy Australian, and I'll leave it to the government to make any announcements that need to be made.
Andrew Leigh, Senator Fifield, appreciate your time, gentlemen. Have a good rest of your public holiday. Thanks for coming
Kieran.
in.
Thanks, Mitch.
Thanks, Kieran.
A quick break on AIM Agenda. We'll be right back. Stay with us.